fatter.
It does if you don't do anything else.
Alright, guys. Hello and welcome to Passing Priority at the Bearded Dragon Games. I'm Jacob Van Lunen, your host this week. I'm being joined by Brad Bonin, Kevin Jones, and Gerard Fabiano. This week is Bloodbraid Week, so we're going to be talking about Bloodbraid Elf and all the amazing things it's done for Modern. You guys probably watched the Magic Online Championship. If you did, you know there were a lot of Bloodbraid Elves doing very well in that tournament. The tournament was won by Boggles. So the first thing we're going to do this week is we're going to do Trash or Treasure. This is a segment we do where we look at some of the best decks in a format and we decide whether or not those decks are trash or treasure and whether or not you should be playing them in your local tournaments. Obviously, you can play any deck you want, but you know if you want to win the tournament, should you be playing
Unless
decks?
there's
That's kind of the
3
question.
trashes, then you can no longer play a deck. Am I right, Jake, or no?
If it's
Yeah, I think if
trash.
everybody thinks the deck is trash, then
You have to sell your deck into the Bearded Dragon.
Alright, so we're going to jump right into this. Our first deck is Red-Green Eldrazi. This is a deck that's done really well lately. I think it won a Grand Prix pretty
Before
recently,
Bloodbraid Elf,
before
yeah.
Bloodbraid Elf, and I think Bloodbraid Elf is a pretty nice upgrade here. What do you think, Gerard, about Red-Green Eldrazi?
Alright, I recently played against it on Magic Online. I do a lot of Modern leagues. I think the deck is okay. There's definitely some flaws with the deck. The fact that you are playing with, mana ramp type creatures could allow you to A, flood out, or B, just kind of Bloodbraid into something not that good, like a Bird of Paradise. Does it have some cool things? Yeah, it has Thought-Knot Seer, it has Reality Smasher. I know the list I was playing against had at least 1 copy of Endbringer, maybe 2. But overall, I'm not the biggest fan of the deck, and I would say the deck is trash, to be honest.
It's a hot take.
Hot
what about
take,
you, Kevin?
deck's
What do you think
trash.
about this deck?
I think the deck is treasure. I think it's very smooth. I think Bloodbraid Elf is pretty good in the deck because the Eldrazi decks are susceptible to a chain of spell removal spells often, and Bloodbraid Elf helps put you an extra body, and with Noble Hierarch in the deck, you end up getting in 5 points of damage sometimes with your extra body, and I just really like. I played against the deck over the weekend, and it was really good, and he did lose because he flooded out, exactly like Gerard said. But I still think that the deck is really good, and I'd say it's treasure for sure.
Right. How about you, Brad? What's your take on this deck?
So I think that the deck's trash also. It feels like it suffers from a lot of the problems that Bant Eldrazi did about flooding out, and when you draw Eldrazi Temple into Thought-Knot Seer, or like Dork into turn 2 Thought-Knot Seer, you feel like you're on top of the world. But sometimes you have the other end of the Eldrazi deck draws where you're like, land, go. Land, Talisman, go. And like your opponent's Goblin guided you 5 times and you feel like you're not playing Magic at all. And I just don't want to sign up to do that. Like, ever.
So are you keeping hands where you have like 2 lands, a Talisman, no Temple, and no Bolt?
If you're on like 5.
Like, no.
Like if you're on 5 or 6, the deck also doesn't
Generally,
mulligan
when I
great.
mulligan to 5, though, I don't know. Like, I'm generally
Yeah.
not too happy with my chances of whatever deck I'm playing. But
Yeah, I mean-
but I do agree with what you and Gerard said. The fact that, when you play a deck that plays cards like Birds of Paradise or Noble Hierarch, you're making yourself more susceptible to bad draws. And you're also making a card like Bloodbraid Elf quite a bit worse. I think Noble Hierarch's a fine flip. I think that, especially if you're playing a card like Endbringer, flipping into another Mana Dork could actually end up ramping you into a really powerful spell, or giving you like more options for things. But I think that this is a deck that has an incredibly high ceiling and an incredibly low floor. Personally, I'm going to give it a treasure because I think that its ceiling is high enough where it's definitely worth looking into, and it's a powerful strategy. I think that there are decks that have very low floors that turn out to be very strong. And Amulet Bloom, for example, ended up getting banned out of the format despite having one of the most miserably low floors of any deck ever. So let's take a look at the second deck here. The second deck we're going to look at is Ponza. This is another Bloodbraid Elf deck that plays Mana Dorks. I know that Brad has played with Ponza this week, so I'm going to start with Brad here, and we're going to talk about Ponza.
So, I think that the deck is treasure for, like, local events. I think that it's, like, if you're trying to have fun, the deck is a blast, but I do not think it's actually competitive. So, for the purposes of the actual segment, I think it's trash. It's not quite consistent enough, and I even had a game where I had, like, on the play, turn 1 Utopia Sprawl, turn 2 Molten Rain, turn 3 Molten Rain, and then I drew Forests and a Course of Kruvix. And my opponent, like, played actual Magic cards and destroyed me because my deck didn't do anything other than Stone Rain twice. And you have, like, a lot of draws like that. You have draws where you have, like, 1 meat card, and it's either a Chandra or, like, a 6-drop Titan, and your opponent mana leaks, and you're like, oh, well, Yeah, my 4-drop got mana leaked on turn 2, but I'm still out of my threat. Like, all this ramp has to meet payoff.
What about you, Kevin? What's your take?
I also played against this deck over the weekend, and I actually lost to it. I generally thought this deck was trash, but it really impressed me. The like turn 2 Chandra really impressed me, and I think that the strategy with Bloodbraid Elf is powerful enough that I would say the deck is treasure, but I don't think it's built correctly, and I think it should have a lot more payoffs. Like, I think that if you don't cast Inferno Titan against a lot of other mid-range decks, like, you don't really have a chance to win. And I think that it's easy to sideboard against the deck with something like Celestial Purge or, you know, some counter spells or something like that can easily combat the strategy, and I think that with a couple tweaks, the deck could be certifiably tier 1, but I still think that the idea is treasure enough that I like it.
How about you, Gerard? What's your take on a deck like this?
It's pretty close. I was going to say trash, then I was going to say treasure. It's another high variance type deck. Any deck where you're playing with Utopia Sprawl or Birds of Paradise, you know, in the previous deck, Noble Hierarch, those types of decks are higher variance. And those are normally decks that maybe are good for players that, I don't want to say don't think that they're skilled enough in the format, but maybe players that want to go with a certain strategy. I feel that sometimes I'm flawed because I always want to play like these blue decks or these decks with discard, but after
I
hearing,
can understand
yeah,
that.
you understand what I'm saying, right? But after
Yeah.
hearing everybody's thought process, it kind of makes me want to play this deck. Maybe this week at the Bearded Dragon team tournament that's going to take place this Friday. We're actually playing Team Passing Priority.
Yep.
So I might want to play that deck just because I do like envisioning getting a turn 1 Chandra and being like, okay, I won. You know, like, who's really playing Hero's Downfall? Who's
Yeah.
playing, Dreadboard? No one really anymore.
There's some Dreadboards floating around, but
Maybe
there's
one?
no Heroes Downfalls.
There's no Hero's Downfall. So the whole thing is that maybe it is treasure. Maybe just playing a deck in Modern where you're able to get those nut draws and always have a backup plan. Like a backup plan of just playing a Bloodbraid Elf is pretty good. Or a backup plan of just going turn 2 Corsair Crufix is pretty good. So I'm going to give the deck actually treasure, and I might want to play it this week.
So, my opinion on this deck is that it suffers from the inconsistency issues that we talked about for Red Green Eldrazi, but to a greater extent.
Mm-hmm.
Because not only can this deck have draws where you're drawing too many mana dorks, but this deck also ends up having draws where it's drawing cards like Stone Rain on turn 6.
I think you should not play Stone Rain in the.
Oh,
in the,
no, I
yeah.
also agree with that.
Yeah, no Stone Rains. I told Mike Dirkso to play with the cap experiment into the Platinum Perion. Not as good anymore, obviously, with Jason the format.
Yeah.
So someone could just bounce it, but I think no Stone Rain is how you want to go.
You can play like 2 Stone Rains,
No,
or 2
you
Trackers or something.
no
I don't
Stone
know.
Rains at all. Stone Rains is
Yeah,
bad.
I think Stone Rain really,
Yeah.
like, it shines against the Tron decks for obvious
Yeah.
reasons, but in basically every other matchup, I'm usually pretty happy when my opponent's spending that amount of mana to do that. If my opponent's playing like a tracker and then playing a land, I'm much more worried than if they're playing a Stone Rain. If my opponent's, playing a Courser, I'm much more worried than if they're playing a Stone Rain. So I kind of think Stone Rains have become worse. I think Tron has become a lot less popular over the last week and a half also.
Mm-hmm.
We had a few weeks where Tron was the deck to beat in Modern, and that's changed a lot. And when that was the case, a deck like Ponza was sweet because you show up and you play against 2 Tron players, and those are great matchups, and then you can just try to nut draw your other opponents, and if you do, you win. Nowadays, you're going to be getting a lot less free wins. One of the discoveries from this deck that I think is pretty interesting that can be used elsewhere is Stormbreath Dragon. Stormbreath Dragon is a card that conveniently dodges Path to Exile, Fatal Push, and Lightning Bolt. And, when you're looking for a threat in a threat-light deck in a format like Modern, this is a really powerful card because it's a card that allows you to play a single card threat that is not susceptible to the removal your opponent's playing. So you can end up making all those removal spells in your opponent's deck dead cards while not having to, completely warp your own strategy around it.
Yeah,
So,
also, Thundermaw Hellkite is an option, especially with
that's a
some
sweet
people
one.
playing Lingering Souls now.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of Bloodbraid Elf type decks. So now people are going more for the 4-color junk decks. That's
Yeah.
another deck I might play this week. Like a
I played
4-color
against that
Jund.
deck too.
Yeah, I think it's pretty strong. So now Thundermore Hellkite kind of combat stat strategy, and is also just good against a lot of decks because it's such a quick clock.
Yeah.
Stormbreath is so good against Path to Exile.
Yeah.
Well, here's
But
the thing.
I
though,
think
is that
Thunderbolt Hellkite.
I think Thunderbolt Hellkite
Yeah.
is actually the better card right now. I'm going to agree with Gerard.
Yeah, because
Here-
Path to Exile is on the down
Yeah,
tick,
very few people are playing Path right now. I
Yeah.
think Path is kind of like a not great card at this point
It's not.
in Modern. And I think that people are cutting them. People are just not playing them at all. And
You could almost not play Path because, say, like you play against the blue-red deck with Thing in the Ice and Young Pyromancer, and if you're going to Path their creature on turn 2,
It's just
there-
good for them.
there's
then
an
it's just a
Jason.
turn 3 Jace.
yeah, it's
So,
brutal.
yep.
You just get destroyed by it.
All right, so I think right now we're kind of split on both these decks. A couple of trash, a couple of treasures for both.
Yeah.
What's our third deck?
Alright, so the third deck's going to be Jund. So Jund is a deck that was wildly successful at the Magic Online Championships. This is a deck that's been crushing the Magic Online leagues. Really powerful strategy. What's your take on Jund? Where is it?
Jund's Treasure. All the cards are absurd. There's a reason that the deck is like all degenerate, like raw power cards. Like you get to Inquisition or Thoughtseize, figure out what your opponent's up to and try to disrupt it. Then you just like slam an undercosted 4/5 or 5/6 and mash their face in. Like Bloodbraid, all the hits are good. Yeah, sometimes you hit an Abrupt Decay and it doesn't have a target, but like 80% of your deck is all good. Even if you Bloodbraid into Inquisition, if you're on the play, it probably still has a target. And if you hit a Thoughtseize, it almost definitely has a target. And when you cast these discard spells and they miss, you're like, oh, well, my board is a Scavenging Ooze and a 3/2 with haste and your hand is lands? Cool, you're dead. I don't care that I missed.
Yeah, that's a good point. Kevin,
So-
your take on Jund?
Jund has been around forever. It's treasure. It's pretty simple in that regard. I think that the playing Bloodbraid Elf with a bunch of cheap discard spells and removal spells to make sure that the board is at least somewhat stable when you cast it is a great strategy. I think that the Bloodbraids have a higher upside when they can hit Liliana of the Veil, Scavenging Ooze, Tarmogoyf, and Colligan's Command than when you can hit like Matter Reshaper or whatever, or I guess Blood Moon is pretty insane. But generally, like, the Jund deck is going to have the best Bloodbraid Elves, and it's very good against other fair strategies. And the way that the super fair blue decks used to beat the Jund deck was just by running them out of cards, and Bloodbraid gives you another threat and maybe another card in addition to that. So I think that those matchups got a lot better, and they're close to Jeskai. I think might not even be favored against Jund anymore, and that's a ridiculous thing to say like a month ago. But so I think Jund is treasure. It's a really good deck. It's kind of a boring answer, but you know, it's good.
Yeah, I think Jund obviously is treasure in my opinion. I think that a couple of thoughts that I had with Jund is you want to play a fair amount of red spells so you're able to kind of combat Blood Moon. You also want to play 2 Fars, 2 Swamps. I think playing a good amount of Maelstrom Pulses is something pretty strong. And then I toyed with the idea of even playing a lower version of it where you're playing with Mishra's Baubles and you're playing with Manamorphose. And there was a few decks similar to this, and you're able to like traverse the underworld.
Traverse the Overworld.
Traverse the overworld for Bloodbraid Elf, and I mean even Bloodbraiding into a Mishra's Bauble is not that bad. It's a 4-mana 3/2 haster. When it comes to play, draw a card. So, and I think the upside of Bloodbraiding into a Traverse is awesome because then you get another Bloodbraid for the next turn. So I think that going that route might be good. Also in this deck, you would play Bedlam Reveler.
And Grimflayer.
I think you would play Grimflayer. You would play Tarmogoyf. You would play No Dark Confidant.
You could play an Eternal Witness. That'd be cool.
You could play Eternal Witness, so maybe I should play this deck this week.
Yeah,
Every
that
single
sounds
deck
neat.
we talk about, I want to play this week in the team event.
I don't know if you've ever traversed for Ewit to get back your traverse. When you have
I think
like
that's pretty
8
good. You
mana.
know what? All right, this is the deck. This is the deck that I'm going to work on. It's going to be
4 mana, you get a 2/1. You don't even spend
it's going to
a
be
card.
Jund,
That's insane.
Jund aggro.
Basically Bloodbraid.
Yeah. So overall, treasure, any version of Jund's treasure, I would just say, think what your opponent could be doing, and hopefully, either sideboard or main deck some answers for that.
So on the thing you said about Manamorphose,
Yeah.
Bloodbraiding into Manamorphose, you draw a card and you get 2 mana.
Yep.
I was playing against a Naya opponent this week,
Okay.
and they had a Sword of Fire and Ice in play, and they cast Bloodbraid and Bloodbraided into
Oh,
a
no.
Manamorphose,
I was able
and
to
then,
play
and
it.
then drew
That's
a
great,
card
yeah.
and were able to equip their Sword of Fire
Yeah,
and Ice.
I do
and
think
I got
equipment.
destroyed.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
so cool.
That's insane.
I think equipments went up a lot, I think that actually the Sword and Fire Ice is very good right now.
I agree.
And I also think Sword and Body of Mind is very good now too, believe it or not.
Why did you fail at pronouncing that?
Sort of Body and Mind?
It's sort of Body and Mind.
Yeah, you didn't say that the first
Well,
time.
I
You
said
said sword and body of mind.
Sword and Body of Mind.
Okay.
Which just made me laugh and I couldn't stop. I'm sorry, but continue.
Actually, fun fact, the black-green sword is misworded because it's out of sequencing, whoever made the card through like the R&D process.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like, all of them have like protection from, let's say like blue and protection from red.
Yeah.
And then you draw a card and it matches. Blue's first, draw a card.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
deals
yeah.
2 damage. But this one's actually reversed. It was a mistake.
So it says like protection from black and from
For
green,
green.
untap all
Right,
your lands,
that-
they discard.
yes,
Oh yeah,
exactly.
so it's reverse order.
Yeah, it's reverse ordered. Fun fact from years ago when the card first came out. Somebody figured it out. Regardless,
Man, that card was so good.
Yeah, I think equipment's really good right now. And I think in this deck, you would want to play a few equipments. Maybe one Sword of Fire Ice, Sword and Light and Shadow. There's a lot of good
I've been
swords.
playing a Light and Shadow and a Fire and Ice in my Bloodbraid Elf decks,
Yeah.
and I've been very, very, very impressed with them.
Do you think the Body and Mind could be good?
I don't know. Light and Shadow has been kind of garbage for me, to be
Light and
honest.
Shadow kind of is garbage. I was thinking
No.
about.
Fire and Ice, when I draw it, I basically just win them.
Yes,
like,
Fire
Fire
and
and
Ice
Ice
is
is
very
ridiculous.
Fire and Ice is really good. Like, I've been thinking
Yeah.
about just playing more than one Fire and Ice, but playing more than one of that card, it seems a little rough.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Honestly,
So one of it seems
against
real
some
good.
decks out there, you can like almost deck them.
With the blue-green one?
Yeah, I'm not even
I feel
kidding.
like there are some decks, though, where you just, like, don't want to ever attack them, right? Like,
Yeah, you
just
don't
like,
wanna call it the graveyard. So,
Yeah, so...
you know what? Maybe,
Dredge, you're
Dredge.
just like,
maybe the black-green one is very good.
Oh yeah.
The
Just
black-green one's good if you're playing with a lot of cards that aren't really that popular anymore. Right? Like, if you're playing with, like, Cryptic Commands, the black-green one's insane.
Yeah.
Right? If you're playing with, like, V-Clicks, the
Jace.
black-green one's insane.
Black-green one's good with Jace?
The black-green one's fine with Jace.
But
But
like,
the black-green
you have to
one
play
is good
Jace.
one,
You
yeah.
have to be playing a creature deck too, though, right?
But
So-
whatever. Regardless, I think that Jund is obvious. You're a treasure on Jund too, right?
absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I
So-
think it's the deck to beat, right?
All right. So far right now, if you're thinking about coming to a tournament or going to Modern Challenge at Magic Online, Jund is definitely up there for one of the best decks that you can play.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think if you're trying to beat Jund, because I think this is the thing that we don't necessarily talk about enough when we're all unanimous about a deck being treasure. I think one of the things we should really focus on when we have that conversation is what cards are just insane against this deck.
Sure.
Because if this deck is so good, like, what do you want to be doing to beat this deck?
Okay.
So I
And it's
have
a
one.
hard question with Jund because they play so
All
much
right.
cards.
So you can
I
go
have one.
first, Brad, and then
Sure,
I'll go.
yeah. So I've been super, super impressed by Entrancing Melody. So it's X blue, gain control of target creature with converted mana cost X. This is in all of my blue-red deck sideboards as at least a 2 of. You just get to take their Tarmogoyf, and if it's summoning sick, you get to block with it also, which is like perfectly lines up into their Bloodbraid turn. But even if it's tapped, you make them kill their own Goyf, or you make them have the exactly second Goyf, or it just is the biggest thing in play, and then you they have a Scavenging Ooze or Lily, they have to use their Lily minus on your card, so their Lily basically plussed to lose loyalty. Like, that's the worst case scenario, is that their Lily trades with their card, instead of just making you discard your garbage sorcery. And if you ever steal like a Dark Confidant at 18 life, it's unreal getting to play Bob for free.
That card's also pretty good with Jace in your deck because,
Yeah.
like, when you have a Jace, it, like, forces them to, like, put more creatures into play, like, that turn to try to pressure it the next turn, which means they put untapped Tarmogoyf into play, and then you take it and, like, block and keep your Jace.
I had a game against that Shadow where I let them resolve a Tarmogoyf, and then I remanded their next card and Blood Moon them, and then I took their Tarmogoyf, and then I cast a Jason, they conceded, and they were at like 18 life.
Yeah,
Like,
it's sweet.
they just didn't get
You
to play
probably would
Magic
beat
at
them
all.
just with the Blood Moon.
Yeah, they just
Yeah.
didn't get to play Magic at all.
Gerard, you've played a lot of Jund. What card do you not want to see your opponent play?
Well, I think that recently I've been playing more blue decks against Jund, and I would say some of the cards that obviously are great, Entrancing Melody, but also cards like Spell Snare or Engineer's Explosives are very good. Because,
Explosives is really good.
Yeah, because they have Ooze, they have Dark Confidant, they have Goyf, which is like the best cards. And other cards that are just good against Jund are any cards that you're able to get like long-term advantage.
Ancestral Vision?
Yeah, Ancestral Vision is great. Search for His Contest is great. Even something more expensive like Torrential Gearhulk
Keranos.
is good. Keranos is okay. I actually found Chandra to be
Okay.
better. Because if you're able to like remove their creature, play a Chandra, take it up to 5, it's basically like only Goyf, or if they get really lucky and go like Bloodbraid into Bolt, but they're normally boarding out some of their bolts against you. Of course, you have Jace they still want to kill, but overall, just anything that's going to give you card advantage.
Snapcaster and
It's
Cryptic
pretty
Command
good.
have been really good against
Yeah,
Jund.
Cryptic Command, Snapcaster, the red Snapcaster, the Dire Fleet.
Daredevil.
Yeah, Daredevil is very good because you're able to, like your turn 3 play could be like Daredevil, Thoughtseize, and then take something good, take their Bloodbraid Elf.
Relic's been good for me.
Yeah.
Shrink their Troglyphs.
Yeah, Relic's good, shuts off their ooze.
Yep.
So if they're playing Lingering Souls, Relic's good. There's a lot of cards. I mean, in Modern, it's just, kind of still the Wild West format where you could play anything goes. You could get killed on turn 3, or the games could go to like turn 20, and somebody could get decked. I've seen people get decked in Modern before.
I managed to go undefeated against Jund this weekend. I played 9 rounds of Modern because I didn't really win any rounds of Legacy.
And what was your record, Kevin?
My record in Modern?
Yes.
7-2.
7-2. Good record. Congratulations. What deck did you play?
I played Bant Company with 2 Jace the Mind Sculptor's main deck.
Hey, speaking of Bant, really quick, I actually really like the Guillaume Matinon's deck from the World
the Time Warp deck?
I like that
deck
deck
is
a lot.
cool.
Cool deck. So.
Yeah,
But
I love that deck.
I was able to beat Jund by playing multiple copies of Voice of Resurgence. That card was really good against Jund. It trades for a Bloodbraid Elf heads up. You can block it and then block it.
Yeah, I was just
like,
about to bring up Sticky Creatures. And
Yeah.
Kitchen Sphinx is nice.
Yep.
my
Voice
Knights
Kitchen
were good.
Finks.
Knight of the Reliquaries were very good.
Reflector Mage can be good against them.
Reflector Mage was really good. The situation that Jerry's podcast, they brought up a guy Reflector Maging his Scavenging Ooze, and then the other guy blood-braided into a Scavenging Ooze and just couldn't cast it. Which is sweet.
Unless it's on Magic Online, then you could
cast it anyway because it's bugged.
Well, yeah. I was playing, and my opponent Reflector Mage my creature, my Young Pyromancer, and then I just replayed Young Pyromancer. And this was one I was 4-0. So it was pretty nice.
Yeah, that's cool. But I think that there's some good smaller
It's still
creatures
bugged.
against Jund.
It's still bugged.
Is that still?
Yeah.
Shout out to Magic Online. With just,
You also still can't undo Wall of Roots mana 14 months later.
it's okay. It's okay.
The funniest one was Pillar of Flame when you would just try to kill the Drolf's Messenger and it would just come back and get you again. That's my favorite.
Oh, yeah, it didn't exile anything.
All right, this is not. Let's all
Talk
see
about
what
our mono
bugs.
bugs?
Yeah, but it's
Yeah,
it's going to happen
favorite bugs.
with a program. That complicated
Yeah,
stuff.
With 25
So
years of cards.
It's okay. Yeah, 20.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody would ever think, especially Richard Garfield, that one day the Abyss would be.
Yeah.
What happens when the Abyss goes with a true name Nemesis?
I have one more bug. I'm sorry.
No.
It's the best
No,
one there is.
No more bugs.
Does
No
anybody
more bugs.
remember what used to happen with Skeleton Eyes? If you
Skeleton
cast
5 mana, deal 3
Skeleton Eyes,
damage.
it
Get a
would
1/1.
draw the game if it resolved.
Oh, really?
yeah.
That's pretty nice.
So there was a
I have a better one than
tournament
that,
where he cast
All right,
Skeleton
we're going
Eyes.
on to
Let's
deck
just move
four.
on.
And the game just drew.
No,
Deck four.
that's great.
Yeah, thanks,
But
Kevin.
It is so
So
funny.
everybody out there
Move
can
on.
just
I
blame
think
Kevin
that-
for this one.
yeah.
It was 0-1 and 11. The match finished 0-1 and 11. Because they both had Skeleton Eyes, they just drew the game every time.
So
Is that not funny? How do you not care?
no, it's fine.
No, we
It's
care.
great.
Everybody who's listening
Um,
to this driving is now laughing and have to pull over because they're laughing too hard.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
that's
such a
good.
good
That's
idea.
right.
It's
Yeah.
Yes.
just great.
Yes.
So Kevin brought up sticky creatures. I think
Okay.
the king of sticky creatures to just demolish Jund is if you resolve a worm coil engine against
Oh,
them.
yeah, sure.
It's lights out. Sigarda is another card where they're gonna have a really, really, really rough time beating a card like that.
Too bad there's not a way to get Worm Coil Engine out quicker, like turn 3 or anything.
You could use
Yeah.
those Urzatron lands, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Now,
Urzatron, yeah, if you want to beat Jund, Urzatron,
Yeah.
or just Tron in general, has a good matchup against Jund.
Yeah. Put Tron lands in your deck. You're
Yeah.
gonna
Even
beat
if they're
them.
playing 4 Phenometer Mages in the sideboard, you still are favored against them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So our fourth deck is Big Zoo.
Ooh, Big Zoo. Okay, can I go first with Big Zoo?
You may go first
All
with
right.
Big Zoo.
So, when you say Big Zoo, there's a lot of different ways you could build a zoo deck. You could build Naya Big Zoo. You could
Naya
build
Big Zoo is what I'm talking about.
Okay, Naya Big
Yeah.
Zoo, sure. You could also go a little bit wider and do a 5-color type
Tribal
medium
Zoo?
zoo deck with Tribal Flames. Tribal Flames is still a very good card. It's
That's going to
basically-
be the next deck we're going to talk
that's
about.
the
is
next deck?
Tribal
Okay,
Flames.
I knew I saw it on the list that you guys posted in the chat,
Yeah.
and then I wasn't sure if it was this one. or
Yeah,
the
no,
next
no. This one
Okay.
is this one's just the big
Ju-
zoo deck
ju-
that a couple people 5-0'd with.
Sure.
It's Flash for Lingering Souls.
Yes.
You play an Overgrown 2.
Uh,
So
I think that any deck that is able to put pressure on the opponent, both with creatures and direct damage, is pretty good. And when I say direct damage, it could be something as simple as Bloodbraid Elf, just getting 3 damage out of nowhere. Overall, I like it. I do like the deck that we're going to talk about next a little bit more. I like the Tribal Flames option a lot. I like being able to just deal 5. Like all of a sudden you're a Bloodbraid Elf and you flip it to a Tribal Flames. 8 damage is a lot in Modern when people are playing shock lands and fetch lands. Even in the 2-color decks, they're still kind of shocking or fetching themselves down to 15 or 16. So that's like half the life total right there. So overall, Zoo in general, I'm going to say Treasure. I prefer the Tribal Flames version.
I think that I'm hesitant to call this deck Treasure yet. This big Zoo deck. I also think Tribal Flames is really sweet. The big Zoo deck is basically just like Knights, Bloodbraid Elves, Goyf, Nova Hierarch, Nikadal, right?
Usually no Goyfs.
Okay.
They're playing like Renegade Rallier.
Yeah.
Oh, that card's
And
really
like
good with
Seal of
Bloodbraid Elf.
Fire.
What?
I've seen Seal of Fire a bunch.
Because you can Renegade Rallier
Usually
it back.
only Seal of Fire when they're Goyf deck.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh, I
the
was
Seal of
thinking 'cause
Fire
you can
goes
get it
with the
back
Goyf.
with
Yeah, yeah.
So
Like,
you're
they
able to
like
build the
pop into
enchantment.
Rallier.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does. Like, here's the deal. Okay, all these
Siege
decks.
Rhino or no?
No Siege Rhino.
Oh, I like
That card does too.
All these decks are very good against, the decks that I like to play against the blue decks because there's so much value. And I've actually seen on Magic Online that I had a lot of success with the blue-red decks or the teamer type decks, and now these other decks are kind of coming up and pushing it. So you have to go even deeper. And Jake and I both have a similar deck with teamer where you have Visions, Bloodbraid, Jace, Tireless Tracker, just to combat these decks. And then the outside strategies of like the combo or the Tron could still get you.
It's
So-
also tough because you don't want to be too fair. If you're too fair and if you have too much like value in your deck, they can beat you with like the aggressive.
Oh yeah, like
deck.
humans. They
Or,
can just go
or you can lose to an aggressive deck.
turn 1 Vial, and then all of a sudden you're in trouble because
Yep.
a Thalia
Yeah.
will come out,
Tireless
or a
Tracker,
freebooter.
Jace in your hand or whatever.
Yeah. So overall, I said it before, and I'll let Brad speak after this, but I think Modern's in a great spot still, even with the Jace unbanning. I know a lot of people are complaining. I don't know really why people are complaining. Bloodbraid, people are, you ruined Modern. No, Modern is just the best format right now. I think it's going to continue to be the best format. And I still feel that the format that will struggle and continue to struggle is Standard until Dominaria comes out. So right now, what I'm playing on Magic Online, I'm playing a lot of Vintage, I'm playing a lot of Legacy, I'm playing a lot of Modern, and I'm playing Pauper. I'm staying away from Standard. And I actually started staying away from Commander, too. Commander's been kind of tilting.
I think we're kind of getting off track here.
We are.
So
We
yeah,
are.
let's
So,
just
Brad,
move on.
here you go.
can
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I actually love this deck, and it's mostly just because it really gives the Hollowed One deck the business. I don't know if you've ever put in a Loxodon Smiter on the draw to your opponent's Burning Inquiry, but there's a little bit of justice when your 0-mana 4/4 isn't your whole deck's plan.
Loxodon Smiter is one of the best cards right now with Jund being so popular. Liliana of the Veil, it's dangerous.
Yeah.
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 Like-
Loxodon Spider is quite good right now.
I'll
I
change
had
my
a-
tune. I'll say
It's
this.
I
just
had a
treasure,
game.
treasure,
I had a
treasure,
game
yeah.
where my opponent turn
I'll
1
change
Burning
my
Inquiry in 2 of my Loxodon Smiters, and I did not play a Hollowed One, and I won easily.
I
I just
saw-
like
amazing.
did my standby chat smiley face. I just like send just a smiley face in the chat anytime something should really be tilting my opponent.
Yeah, and I mean
saw-
sometimes they're playing Wiltly Fleech too, just
Yeah.
to make it
Yes.
absolutely impossible
Yeah.
to like ever play like
And then
any
your
sort
Loxodon
of
Smiters are
untargeted discard.
6/6s.
Yeah.
I saw a screenshot of a Magic Online game, and there was a Hollow One and a Blood Crypt in play for the person who took the screenshot, and the opponent had nothing in play except for a Loxodon Smiter.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh man. There was a Burning Inquiry
We,
in the graveyard. It's pretty funny.
We were playing Dredge once, and we just like on the play Faithless Suiting, and our opponent still cast Burning Inquiry, so we just dredged 3 times and won easily. Like,
That's sweet.
Yeah, I mean that's a card you probably want to
Yeah.
loot away
yeah.
in that matchup. So I really like this deck. One of the reasons I like the big Zoo decks is because of how badly they demolish Jund. You have a lot of sticky threats. Cards like Voice of Resurgence are really good. Renegade Rallier is really good. Your Bloodbraid Elves are good. Yeah, I know they're also playing Bloodbraid Elf, but all these cards are 2-for-1s, and Jund is a deck that's pretty heavily relying on just like 1-for-1ing you out of the game until you have no resources. So if you're playing cards like this, it's really easy to beat them. The other thing is that it's also just an aggressive creature deck that kind of has a lot of different kinds of creatures as threats. and because of that, it makes it harder for the more controlling decks to contain you. Big problem with this deck is combo strategies. Play against a combo deck, especially in game 1, it's just nightmare mode. Games 2 and 3, you can bring in like stupid stuff like Eidolon of Rhetoric, but
Canonist.
Which deck do you prefer, this one or the Tribal Flames deck? That's pretty similar to it.
I prefer the Tribal Flames deck because you just kill people. So, speaking of Tribal Flames, we're going to move on. I'm going to say that deck's Treasure, by the way.
Yeah.
That we just talked
yeah.
about. Next, we're going to talk about...
Vents and Unified Will?
What?
Like, couldn't the Zoo deck just play Steam Vents and Unified Will?
No,
Why would you play Unified Will in
Yeah.
Modern? There's so many better
Negate,
options,
whatever.
right?
You
Yeah,
can play-
yeah. Like,
I
I'd
played
rather
Unified
Remand
Will, and
so I
it
can get
was
closer
dope.
to drawing the bolt that kills
Yeah.
them, right? Like,
Or even Mana Leak is realistically a hard counterspell when you're
Yeah,
playing
flash
a
freeze
deck that's
if
going to
you-
kill
if
your
you play
opponent by
against
turn
Valakut.
4 or 5.
Yeah.
yeah.
You could probably Mana Leak anything, so...
Those decks could board counterspells, though.
Yeah, they could, yeah. And some of them have. The 5-color Zoo decks used to sideboard
Yeah,
something.
like
Some
or
of them
Counter
negates.
Cat or
Or
whatever.
like Queller in
Yeah.
the board.
Yeah, and I
Band
think
Charm.
Visit Charm is actually better, or Bant Charm
Yeah, Bant
might
Charm,
be
yeah.
better.
Band Charm, sure.
Because the thing is, like, those cards aren't cards that you're like, oh no, I flipped this off Bloodbraid Elf. Those
Yeah,
cards are
just
like,
pick it
yes,
up.
I flipped this off
Yes.
Bloodbraid Elf. And
Yeah.
then, like, it's also just
Yeah.
a counterspell.
Yep, exactly.
That's cool. I
Yeah.
like that. Yeah, yeah.
Honestly, another card I was thinking of that could go with this is Teamer Charm.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
You don't really want to flip Teamer Charm all the time with Bloodbraid because it's not like you're going to be able to counter.
I mean, a
But-
lot of the
but
time people
Teamer Charm is cool.
leave back creatures to block and stuff.
Yeah.
And
Can't
just flip
doesn't
in Teamer
fight
Charm to
something?
get them.
Yeah,
But
fight
fight
something.
something's the other
yes,
mode, though?
yeah, it
That
fights
card's
something.
good.
But
Mana
it's like
Leak.
Mana
It's
Leak.
like fight
Or-
Mana Leak
or
and
Land
the
Alter,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, with the Tribal Flames deck, I said Treasure already. I'll stick with Treasure. And honestly, basically, besides the first deck we talked about, the Eldrazi Bloodbraid deck, I think all 4 of those decks are decks that I could see myself playing.
Yeah. The thing about the Tribal Flames deck, though, is this: you could build it to be a little bit bigger, like the deck we just talked about, but the way most people have been playing this Tribal Flames deck is they've been playing an incredibly low-to-the-ground strategy. They've been playing Goblin Guides. They've been playing, Curd Apes and Loam Lions.
Yeah,
Wild
I've been playing
Wild
against Loam
Lions.
Lions
Are
a lot.
they
Yeah.
playing Death Shadow or no?
They're not.
Sometimes.
I've seen Death Shadows,
Yeah.
but they're also playing Mantis Rider, and flipping into Mantis Rider with Bloodbraid Elf is the business.
Woo!
It's really, really, really nice.
That's sweet.
And I think that it's possible to make this deck a little bit bigger, which I think maybe you want to do. I think going all in on I'm going to play all these 1-mana creatures and hope I get there. Sometimes I feel like I'm not really giving myself the opportunity to outplay my opponents, and I just lose to an Engineered
Yeah.
Explosives, or I lose to like a post-board Anger, and I get really angry about it.
And there's still Supreme Verdict in the format, so there's still blue-white floating around
Yeah,
and stuff.
yeah.
So.
Yeah. Like, in that way, this
I
is
played against somebody who
frustrating.
violent outbursted off of their Bloodbraid, and they just like hit me with 3 with their Loam Lions and Curd Apes, and I just like died on the spot.
Because they got to flip into something else also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He like Bloodbraided into Violent Outburst into Goblin Guide, and like already had creatures I couldn't beat, and I was like, oh, all right, that's the day. I'm going to
That's
bed.
wild.
Like,
Man, that guy's awesome.
Yeah.
Whoever that guy is.
just good deck building.
That's cool.
So for you guys, Treasure as well? Or?
I also think this deck is Treasure. It's strange that I rated 5 Red-Green X decks Treasure today.
Well, you're just gonna put Torrential Gearhulk in them and then register them.
Oh yeah, well I'm gonna try to put Steam Vents and a bunch of Mana Leaks in all
Yeah.
these Zoo decks, but that makes me like them more. I think this Tribal Flames deck is sweet. I've always liked these decks in the past. The one that played like Geist of St. Traps and Siege Rhino, I thought was underrated for a long time.
Bloodbraid into Geist is like
I
pretty sweet.
think that the lower end of the curve is better though. I like
Oh, yeah.
what you guys were saying with all the 1-mana 2/3s and even maybe Death Shadow. I think you could go that far.
I played
Where,
against
like-
one guy playing Death Shadow, and it was like definitely the easiest game to win because he just dealt himself 10 damage, and I was able to bolt electrolyze him out
Yeah.
with my red-blue deck that should never beat Zoo.
Mhm. Yeah, you can't really play Stubborn Denial or anything like that
Yeah,
in with your Bloodbraid Elves, right? So maybe you don't.
You're
play
just
Death
like
Shadow.
playing a 56-card Zoo deck instead of a 60-card Zoo deck.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
You're already fetch shocking a bunch for your errant dual lands.
So, my take on the Tribal Flames deck, the thing I really like about the deck is the reach aspect of it.
Yeah.
I think that the combination of Tribal Flames, Burrow's Charm, and Lightning Bolt, it's really dangerous in Modern for a lot of opponents, and I think that you still play against enough Death Shadow where you kind of just get these free wins. Like your opponent just puts themselves down to 9, and you just like have drawn 2 cards and they just lose.
Yeah.
I really like Bloodbraid Elfing into Mantis Rider. you know, I've had games where my opponent had like these like draws that didn't seem to do anything. I like bolted their guy. They like, didn't have a 1-drop against humans, and they just play Mantis Rider on turn 3, and they like race a reasonable draw from me just with a Mantis Rider, and it's the most frustrating thing in the universe. So I'm just in my head imagining flipping in a Mantis Rider with Bloodbraid Elf and just cracking my opponent for 6 and leaving 6 points of power on the table, and that's gotta feel real nice. So I'm definitely giving this deck a treasure. This is the deck I want to try. I'm probably going to make it a little bit bigger. I really don't like the idea of Curry for Lone Line, but Wild and Cuddle and Goblin Guide are sweet. So.
Okay, good.
So honorable mention, it's the last deck we're going to talk about,
Okay.
last Bloodbraid Elf deck. This is Teamer. This is a deck that I've been playing online this week. I've 4-1'd every league I've played with the deck. I've played 3 leagues with the deck now. You get a lot of options. Gerard, you've played a ton of this deck. You're kind of the godfather of Teamer in Modern.
Yeah, I do really like Teamer. You know what? Teamer Moon might be the deck I'm playing this week. I'm teaming with these guys. And when I go home, I'll probably fire up Magic Online. And I think the first deck I'll work on is Teamer Moon. So I'll definitely take some of Jake's suggestions. I think it's a good deck. It's a deck that gets even better with sideboard because you're able to kind of navigate where some decks you play against Ancestral Visions is very good. Some decks you play against Bloodbraid deck is very good. Or sometimes you want to board in a bunch of removal and beat the creature decks. You have some counter spells to combat the combo decks. Overall, it's a good deck. It attacks with a lot of different angles. I like Teamer Moon. It's treasure. It's just like, you know, how are you going to build it? Is Noble Hierarch the best way to go about it? Kind of like a green-blue deck, splashing red? Or should it be, you know, straight 3 colors? Who knows?
So I've seen a variety of Teamer decks. The first one I saw was basically like a blue control deck splashing Lightning Bolt and Tarmogoyf. I played Disrupting Shoal, Jace's Search for Iskanta. This was this was before Jace was legal in paper, and I don't think this deck is actually particularly good. It's certainly cool because I am a huge Disrupting Shoal truther, and I think that I'm probably the only person on the show who is that, but that's okay. I think that the more normal Moon deck is good. I think that when you really start to get into like the Noble Hierarch territory, I like the direction that deck is going, especially because it's so threat dense, and it's really unlikely to run out of gas, and you get to play, presumably you get to play both Bloodbraid Elf and Jace in some of your configurations. Is this the deck you've been playing?
It is
Bloodbraid
the deck
Elf
I've been
and
playing.
Jace?
Yeah. And Ancestral Visions.
And Ancestral
So
Visions.
Do you have
basically
Goblin
all-
Rabblemaster in your deck?
No.
I have had 1 for 1 league, and I 4-1 that
Yo, I
league.
like
and
that
the
card.
only game I drew it, I lost.
No!
I flipped into it off Bloodbraid Elf twice though, and it was real
It's
nice.
the sickest
it was
thing
real
ever.
nice to flip it off Bloodbraid
I
Elf.
feel like Courser is just the more the route you want to go. Courser,
Courser is
Tyler
nuts
Shatter.
with Jace.
Courser also like lets you check whether you want a Bloodbraid or not if your top
Yeah.
card's like a
So my
bad
thing
one
though is
draw.
like with Tracker, Jace, Visions, and Bloodbraid flipping into like Visions and stuff, and like getting to Brainstorm that on top, I was like never in need of like cards. Like the Courser aspect, like it was never like, oh man.
But
Did
sometimes
you ever
you're-
need life against Burn?
Yeah. Sometimes
Yeah.
you're in need of
Oh,
life.
I was just I don't know. Burn, I beat Burn both times I played against it.
Courser's
You
like
have
the best
kitchen
card
things?
against Burn.
What?
Kitchen things?
I had 1 Kitchen Finks in 1 league also. I like that the 2 cards you asked are like a
Yeah.
slot that has changed. It like was once a sort of Light and Shadow.
Well, some of these
It
things
was
are
once
really
a Battle
obvious,
Master.
right? Like the Bloodbraid
So,
Elves.
by the way, Sword of Fire and Ice is in this deck as a 1-of, and it's like the best
The
card. in
truth.
the deck.
I think
Yep.
you want
So
a good
good.
amount of
Yeah,
3-drops in this deck. So how many
Yeah.
3-drops did you play? If you
Um,
played two blood moons, right?
2 Blood Moons,
Okay, and then what else? One sword.
1 As Foretold.
Are there hierarchs in this deck?
Yeah, they're hierarchs,
Okay.
Yeah, 1 As Foretold, a Vendilion Click, Sword of Fire and Ice, and 2 Tracker.
Okay, so it's
Did
like
you see
7-ish.
Corbin's deck?
I did not.
He did a video with this same deck. Right after it was legal, he did a video with Bloodbraid, Jace, and Ancestral Visions and Bloodbraid. So
Yeah.
it's pretty
Sweet.
interesting. But
Yeah, I mean,
yes,
those are powerful cards.
Yeah,
I
I don't
think
even know
it's good.
what person he said.
He works with Jake in coverage.
Who is it?
Corbin Hustler.
Corbin Hustler.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know, but
Corbin, great guy.
yeah, great guy.
He's from
Yeah.
Oklahoma.
Okay.
That's where the Dust Bowl was.
Yeah.
Oh.
Dirty 30s.
Was it really?
Yeah.
The
Good.
Dust Bowl is my favorite college bowl game.
That's a poor joke.
Yeah.
All right.
So Brad, for you, treasure.
Yeah.
That's enough with your jokes. Okay. So
Yeah, I
three
like this deck,
treasures.
treasure.
Obviously, Jake's treasure. If he's going 4-1 in 3 leagues in a row,
Yeah.
Soon
I
he'll
think
go
this deck's
5-0.
I mean,
sweet.
He's done
Jake-
that with
Jake
a lot of
someday
decks
I'll go
that I haven't been
5-0.
able to go
Jake
1
4-1s
forward.
with trash though. Don't his skill gets him there either way.
Yeah, he's
No,
like,
normally
I
when I
4-1
5-0
these
it's
leagues,
with,
put
like-
this deck together, and I'm like,
Yeah,
dude,
no.
I lost 250 play points in the past 2 hours. What are you talking about?
Stop playing the
Online,
two
though. It's
mans.
not that.
Yeah.
In the modern leagues, they're
You
not.
can't spend 250.
They're
on
tough. They're
real-
tough.
real
Yeah.
events.
It's like a
It's
minefield out there.
It's 240.
It's 240,
So,
but
Yeah.
All right, so we just had the Legacy Open.
Sure.
How did you guys feel about Legacy? Were you guys excited about it? Did it feel rough? I know none of you had a particularly strong
My ride,
Yeah.
my
I
ride
didn't
fell
go. I didn't
through.
go.
Yeah,
They
I also
did
didn't
much
go.
better. They
me and
didn't
Brad
lose
didn't.
money.
Yeah, me and Brad didn't go. So
My
we
ride
couldn't
fell
have
through
fun.
and I played the Legacy Challenge on Magic Online on Sunday, and I lost my winning into the guy who won the event, who was a very, very nice Asian pro. And we like chatted a bunch afterward. He like smoked
What deck
me
was
with
he
Delver.
playing?
He was on Grixis Delver with Cabal Therapy's main and no stifles, 3 Young Pyro, 2 Therapy main.
True names or just one?
And he just like probe therapied me game 1 and like probe therapied me game 2 and then surgicaled my Termini, and I was like, yeah, dead to your true name. I played with 1 Supreme Verdict. I played with red in the Legacy Challenge. I'm not gonna play red going forward. Pyroblast is absurd, but too often I fetch my Volcanic Island and then it gets wastelanded, and I just get Stone Rained to the Stone Age, where the Pyroblast wasn't worth sacrificing my land.
You should consider
Yeah, it's weird 'cause
playing
you
main
need it
deck
early,
Fluster
but-
Storm.
Yeah.
I play 1 main deck Flush Storm. It was absurd. I like
I'm playing 2, and it's one of the
I
best
crushed a
cards.
Storm player. It
Yeah.
just like went for it. Like he like you know raw
Went for it.
went
That's
for
what
it on
Storm
turn
does,
1
Yeah.
Yeah.
because he was on test, not Ant, and he just like didn't have a probe, and I was like, oh okay, Fluster Storm.
I played
Like,
Stoneblade
all the
this
copies.
weekend.
Yeah,
All right,
played-
Kevin plays Stoneblade. Tell us about your weekend.
I played 2 main deck Fluster Storms. They were
Okay.
pretty good,
Yeah.
but I played 4 rounds and I won 1 of them
Okay.
against the Stoneblade Mirror. That was cool. Playing the Stoneblade Mirror was nice. My opponent was a really nice guy, and he asked me to sign his Batter Skull afterwards.
Wait, was he a nice guy
That's
because
cool.
he asked you to sign his back?
He's a nice guy because he was playing Stoneblade, and he was also a nice guy. I like the cut of his jib, but I don't know. I don't think Stoneblade is particularly good right now. It's just like kind of floods a lot and doesn't really have good threats outside of True Names. I think True Names better when you're pressuring them in other ways, and this deck really just doesn't do that. I think Legacy has the potential to be good. I really like Sultai Delver right now. If I could, mulligan this tournament, I would play Sultai Delver, even though it can't really beat a Jace.
Tarek top 16 with Sultai
I
Delver.
would board like a
8-0.
Maelstrom Pulse or whatever, or a bunch more Spell Pierces and just try to beat it. But
Just force it.
yeah, just force it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or just like
Always
more
have
True
it.
Names or more Leovolds are good against
yeah,
Jace.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if I would
Leave
play
it.
Tarmogoyf or not. I think that most
You
Sultai
have
Delver
to
lists
face it yourself.
play
It's the
Tarmogoyf,
only mode that works.
but I think it's conceivable to play like just Anglers and Leovolds instead of Tarmogoyfs. I would have to
What about-
ask someone
what
who's
about-
more
I
experienced.
think Angler's
Tombstalker.
not that great right now, but
One Tombstalker is cool. I like the old Malamugio deck or
It's
whatever.
important to remember that Tombstalker has flying.
Oh, Tombstalker's sweet.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think the check pile deck is sweet too. Legacy has some interesting decks. I think that lands is obnoxious and oppressive, and I wish it didn't exist.
What about Card's Deathrite Shaman?
That's fine. Deathwatch Shaman's cool. I think there's enough people doing it that it just doesn't really matter that many people are doing it. Like people shouldn't be trying to do fair things that don't include Deathrite Shaman. Maybe that means the card should be banned.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really matter that much against the people who are doing. Everyone is doing unfair things who's not doing
I just
that.
don't know if Badlands deck should get to play Birds of Paradise. That also is a late game win condition.
overall, Legacy's great.
Yeah.
It really is.
So much
I said
fun.
it before.
Yeah,
it's just
yeah.
like there's not much more to say about that. Like I hope one time we do like an all Legacy show, maybe
Yeah.
maybe right before a big Legacy event, because there's so much thought process behind a lot of different things in Legacy and cool interactions that only happen in a format that's so wide.
I also think that there are many different approaches that are successful.
Oh,
in
definitely,
Legacy.
yeah.
I think that people can play very differently. Like there was a match I played at like an SCG a long time ago, and you were commentating the match.
Okay.
I don't know if you remember this.
What deck were you playing?
I was playing Stoneblade.
Ooh.
Yeah, and
I don't remember.
I had like 2 fetch lands uncracked, and I had these brainstorms in my hand, and I just never cast the brainstorms. I was just sitting there. Neither of us were doing anything. I just was never casting.
And then
brainstorms.
Jake lost the game and still didn't get. I was kidding.
No. But the whole time while you're commentating, you're like, why is he never casting? Like he could just like find a threat at some point and like he has these brainstorms, and my thought process when I'm playing Legacy, like if I'm in the spot where neither of us are doing anything, I've got some brainstorms in my hand and like some extra cards and like some fetch lands in play.
Yeah.
I just feel like $1,000,000. I feel like every single turn I pass the turn without having to do something, I'm getting closer to winning. So it's really interesting that like you and I both like win the majority of our matches when we play Legacy, and yet this card that is like the most important card in Legacy, you and I have like very different schools of thought on how to play with it, and like Legacy just lets you like be who you are as a Magic player, and that's great.
Yep. Also, really quick in Legacy, it's like the theory, because I used to play these types of decks. If you want turn 1 Dark Ritual, do you go Hemp to Torque first, or do you go Thoughtseize first? And that's like a conversation you could have with somebody driving someplace for like a good hour, or at least a half hour.
I think you and I have had that conversation.
I want to
for like
Thoughtseize
a half hour
first.
All right,
all day long.
Really quick before we go on to our next segment. So, are you Thoughtseizing first or Hemming first?
I would Thoughtseize first.
Okay, Brad, Thoughtseize or Hemming?
I'm a sucker for hemming lands. I'm Thoughtseizing first.
You're
There's more
Thoughtseizing
lands
first?
in their
Okay.
hem hand.
What about you?
Yeah. I'm hemming first. I
You're
might
hemming
take their
first?
best card, and then if I take like their best and second best card,
Yes.
then I can just like neuter them completely.
Yes, I think- Yeah,
Oh,
you
man.
hem first, then you Thoughtseize, and you pick out like the leftovers. Like, oh,
Okay.
that's the only card that could possibly save you. Now I'll take that.
I
don't want him to
What
get
did you
forced.
say? Hem first or?
I said Thoughtseize first because I
No,
want the
no,
hem
hem
hit
first,
lands.
hem first.
I just want to hem lands every time I cast
So
him.
whatever. That's for a
I
different
have
day.
one
Yeah,
thing
yeah.
too, quickly.
All right, one thing and then next topic.
I played against a check pile deck this weekend. They were playing main deck, Dak Faden, and Punishing Fire.
Oh yeah, that's a deck. That's a
And
different deck, but yeah,
I wrote a
that's not
Facebook
check
post.
pile though.
For there's a Legacy Open coming up in Cincinnati, and I was so disillusioned with Legacy that I wrote a Facebook post encouraging my friends and followers to apply to be the third on our team for Harlan and I for this team open. So I made a questionnaire so that people could apply to be my teammate for the Legacy seat for this open, and it got like 300 comments, and it was sweet, and I got a ton of messages, and I'm gonna raffle off something sweet for all the people who responded, and it was awesome.
Nice. Good job. Okay.
Yeah, I saw that. It was pretty funny. I read some of the
You
comments.
should have applied, Jacob.
I didn't see.
Yeah. I thought about applying, but then I was like, oh, I don't really.
I don't. I don't
Yeah, I
do
thought
that.
we got stuff to do. So we're gonna do a new segment now. This is gonna be our last segment. Before we do the giveaway and some stories and whatnot.
Yeah.
So this segment is called Card of the Week.
Okay.
We're talking about cuts and ads. So you can either pick a card that you think has gotten dramatically worse this week in Modern, or you can pick a card that you think has gotten dramatically better. You can talk about sideboard cards. You can talk about whatever you want. So, do you guys want me to start so I can talk about?
Yeah, start. Yeah.
All right, so the card I'm going to pick is Engineered Explosives. I think this card has gotten much better. This card was already very good, but I think that if you had one of it in your board, you're going to want 2 or 3 in your board. This card will change the way you have to sideboard by quite a bit. It's often a card you don't want to have 3 or 4 of in your deck if you're keeping 4 Bloodbraid Elves post-board. However, I think Boggles has gotten too powerful recently. I think that there are a lot of these low-to-the-ground decks where people are jamming a whole bunch of 1-drops, hoping that they're just going to go underneath these Jace decks, and they're just going to kill the Jund decks while the Jund decks deal themselves damage with lands. And Engineered Explosives is, in my opinion, the biggest winner of the last week in Modern.
Okay, great. I definitely. I like Engineering Explosives, so definitely a good one. All right.
He's
Yeah,
great.
it's a good one.
All right, so my pick for this week, I'm a little bit late to the party on this one, but it's Through the Breach. So obviously, when the Unbanned Jace, you guys talked about the Through the Breach combo, but recently Modern feels like it's slowed down a little bit relative to where we were about 2 weeks ago, when everybody was making sure they could go under Jace and not really worrying about trying to play to the late game. We've seen the Jund mana curves add a Liliana the Last Hope and get a little bit chunkier. You get like another half turn, which really matters if you're trying to Through the Breach someone. People also feel I feel like people are dealing themselves another point or 2 of damage. It's easier for me to bolt them to 15 and 15 them than it was to, 15 them from 17. Also, Through the Breach just got bought out pretty much everywhere over like the last 5 or 6 days. I don't know why, because I haven't actually seen any new deck lists with it, but the dollar is behind my opinion. So
What more can you do with it besides what people are already doing with it?
You could bluff with
Like,
it.
what this?
well, so there was
Just like cast it?
yeah. Well, there's
Oh, that's
also
cool.
there's also like you get to do it in their end step and then untap and do it again, which is
Yeah,
like
yeah.
a point over the Kiki combo. But there's also just that Grishelbrand deck that top aided Grand Prix Toronto,
Mhm.
and as people maybe test that or get excited about wanting to try that, they finally need to own Through the Breaches. So
There's
there's like
nothing-
a little bit of renewed demand.
There's nothing more broken that you can do with Through the Breach than put Grizzle
Than win
Brand
the
into
game
play
on
and
turn
win the
2?
game. Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if like there's no real secret to why it's being bought out. Like there's nothing better that you can do than Grizzle Brand or whatever. But
I mean, you could remand twice and then
yeah, no,
finally
that's-
cast a spell.
that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
But the card that I like is a sideboard card that I had already been playing one of and probably should have been playing two of, and now I'll certainly be playing two of them in all of my white decks. And this card is Celestial Purge. I think this card has gotten a lot better too. It used to be a very underrated way to get rid of Death Shadows, and basically all the threats in the Death Shadow deck were susceptible to Celestial Purge. So I played it back then in Jeskai, and it's very good against Liliana the Veil. It's nice that you can remove all these Bloodbraid Elves.
Yeah.
The Ponza deck that has grown in popularity recently, all of their payoffs are extremely weak to Celestial Purge.
Except Stormbreath.
Oh yeah, except for Stormbreath, sure. But Bloodbraid Elf, Blood Moon, sorry. Blood Moon, Inferno Titan, and Chandra are all weak to Purge. Against Jund, you have a lot of great targets. You have Liliana the Veil,
Either Liliana.
Last Hope, yep. And then just Bloodbraids and Dark Confidants. But I just think it's a great sideboard card. It has like added utility against Burn, although I probably wouldn't bring it in there. I might if depending on the deck. Like from Bant I would bring it in, but I wouldn't bring it in from Jeskai. But then also
I think if you don't have Lightning Helix, you're bringing it in.
yeah, probably. You just don't want to die Eidolon, right?
Yeah.
But
Do you really want to sideboard in like more than one of this against Jund though?
I would sideboard 2 in if I had it.
I don't know.
From Bant Company for sure, and from Jeskai probably.
Okay, from Bank.
If you don't struggle with Goyf, but if you do struggle with Goyf, you're just going to stare at this card that doesn't go Goyf while it mashes your face in.
It's also just one of those cards where like, you know, it's a card they like put you to top deck mode so often, and it just like feels like a rough top deck a lot of the time.
That's fair.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. For my card, I'm going to say it's Spellskite. I think Spellskite's really good, and
That's a good one.
and not necessarily because Boggles is out there, but mainly because when you have Spellskite, like say like the blue-red deck that I play with Pyromancer, Thing in the Ice, Jace, and when you're playing the mirror match and you play a Spellskite, your opponent's bolts are almost dead right now, so you're able to, when you are able to land a Jace, instead of you having to go plus to 5, blah, 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 you just be like, boom, you know, draw 3, and that's what you want to do with Jace. So the Spellskite actually protects the Jace, which is pretty neat. It also protects your Young Pyromancer, which is very important too. And the whole thing is that if you play it on turn 2, and they end up like spell snaring it, then that opens up something for your Snapcaster later, because their spell snare might not be there. And of course, it has other utilities. It's a decent blocker to also protect your Jace in actually blocking.
It's also a horror, right? So if you
So it doesn't get
if you
picked
play
up.
Thing with the
Yeah, it
Thing in the
doesn't get
Ice,
picked
when
up.
it flips, it stays there to
It stays
protect the
there.
backside of it.
Bedlam Reveler, also a horror.
Yeah. So
Ooh.
I think Spellskite's good.
It's a horror show.
Could you main deck Spellskite? I would say I wouldn't want to main deck Spellskite.
Put it on the
because
board.
You don't really want to go turn 2 Spellskite and then just like, okay, turn 3 Liliana, make you sacrifice.
Yeah.
But I think out of the sideboard, it's a lot better. It also is randomly good against people playing Infect. Pretty good against Burn, not insane against Burn, but fine.
Yeah.
Pretty good against Boggles, not insane against Boggles because they can still get around it.
I think
But whatever, it's good.
it's a huge vote of confidence for Boggles that like ever since Twin has been banned, people just don't casually play Spellskite anymore. And it used to be like I had Spellskites in the sideboard of like my Teamer Escape Shift.
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
Like
Spellskite's good.
3 years ago or 4 years ago or whatever, I just played against Boggles and was just like Spellskite on turn.
And
2, they
Spellskite
lost.
could attack, just so you guys know.
Yeah, it's allowed to attack. It doesn't have Defender.
Yeah. So.
Yep.
Thing in the
Well,
Ice does, though.
Well, just in case you haven't been aware, Jake's gonna go home and start putting some Sword and Fire Ices on his Spellskites now.
Yeah, I mean, well, they're
Yeah.
really good. It's really good to have a Spellskite in play when you're putting Sword of Fire and Ice on another creature.
Yes,
also,
it is.
There were Spellskites like protecting Stone Forges that were getting Sword of Feast and
Yes.
Damage back in the day. That was
yeah,
crazy.
yeah, that was a real thing that was.
I
So that's
played
good. So-
Spellskites when I won my first PDQ.
Quick
ever.
recap: Spellskite. We have Educator's Explosives from Jake. We have Celestial Purge, and of course, I wasn't paying attention to Brad.
Through the
so-
Breach.
Through the Breach. All right, good. I'm joking, Brad. Through the Breach. I saw all good ones. I actually did forget that.
No worries.
So yeah, because
You're like the champion of that card, so.
yeah, I like Through the Breach. I think because your pick's definitely a cool pick. It's just not like a
It's not like a sideboard,
sideboard pick.
card.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think we all picked like kind of niche cards that are like either that are trending up for a variety of reasons.
Yeah,
You picked
exactly.
like a card that's
I picked a card that's trending up, but didn't fit in our primary segment because it's
Yeah.
not a Bloodbraid Elf card.
Yeah, exactly.
I think
still,
also
still
though-
really good. Still really
I think
good,
yours
yeah.
is a great
Yeah.
choice as well. It's actually like there's value to choosing something that's
A bit
a little
different.
bit more conventional because it lets people understand stuff in a different way.
Yeah.
If I had gone first, I would have said EE.
Okay.
So
Well, I also think though that it's worth noting that right now in Modern, I think that it's worthwhile to use your sideboard slots for more high impact cards that are maybe not as good in as many matchups. Right now, games have gotten a lot grindier, and cards have gotten a lot more like generic. So when you're sideboarding in like these like, kind of like basic like, like removal spells and whatnot, they're kind of just like being the same kind of 1-for-1 that your main deck already had. Whereas when you're sideboarding in like these Haymaker type cards, I think that it's actually better than it used to be in Modern right now.
What do you
okay.
think
Kevin
about
first, okay.
Eidolon of Rhetoric? Is that an honorable mention?
Eidolon of Rhetoric is an interesting one. I think that Storm has gotten a lot worse because Jund has gotten so much better. And I think that, Eidolon of Rhetoric is a card you really just want against Storm. I understand that it's good against Bloodbraid Elf.
It's also good against Snapcaster Mage.
Yeah, and it's good against Snapcaster Mage, but those decks usually play a way to kill it,
Sure.
and often for less mana than it costs. And as a result, it's not really the type of answer I'm looking for, where I'm playing a card that they already have an answer to that costs less mana than it in their deck. It kind of feels like maybe it's not worth maybe it's not what I want to be doing. I think that it is an interesting card if people start playing something like a Congregation at Dawn Bloodbraid Elf deck.
If I had Purge and Eidolon, I had played one practice game with my Bant deck, or a couple practice games with my Bant deck before the Classic, and if I had Purge and Eidolon on my board, I don't think I would have lost any rounds. That's how good it was.
Oh, wow.
Like, I had a random Elspeth Sons champion, and like a couple other bad cards, and if I just cut those, played Purge or two, and an Eidolon for Storm, I think I would have won, like, all the matches.
Really
It was
quick
sweet.
before
did you lose to Paul?
I lost to Paul, and I lost to Runner Inferno Titan from
Okay. Paul is the Storm guy. He won an Open recently. He's one
a
of
good friend
Caleb's
with
good
Caleb
friends.
Shearer.
Yeah, I've met him.
Paul
He got
Murray.
second at the Classic.
He's from
Yeah.
Highline. He's from New York.
Yeah.
Poughkeepsie area.
Cool
I think
guy.
he's also a level 2 judge. He's a great dude.
Yeah, my mom went to Vassar.
Okay.
Yeah.
Really quick before Jake gets into the giveaway, I know I brought this story up maybe a while ago, but to tell you when I was playing my Blue Moon deck way back in the day when I was testing for the tournament that me, Ilya Cassis, and Ben Lundquist top forward in San Antonio, I was playing against Fairies, and I was playing with one Platinum Empyrean in my deck, and because it was just like a light splash with Madcap Experiment. I was playing against Fairies, and I was like, all right, well, this is my strategy. He obviously has a counter spell, so I'm going to play Madcap Experiment. He's going to counter it, and then I can open up to do something the following turn.
Yeah.
Because I had the Platinum Empyrean in my hand. So I was like, all right, Madcap Experiment. And he's like, let it resolve, and I just like died.
That's great.
Yeah. So, Jake, are you going to explain the giveaway so everybody
Sure,
understands
so
what's going
this is an insane giveaway. We're
Yeah, it
giving
really
away
is.
not only a Magic 25 booster box,
The
we're
whole box.
Also,
Yeah, the whole box.
the whole
sealed.
thing.
Yeah.
The entire
Which
thing.
is like
There's
close
gonna be
to
some random-
$200 for free.
Yes.
I actually think it might be
Yeah.
more than that.
Yeah, depending on where you shop.
Yeah.
I know the Bearded Dragon had like some blowout
Some
sale
awesome-
for $159
160? Yeah.
or some
Yeah,
$159.99.
pre-orders.
Yeah,
Yep.
which is crazy.
We actually
160.
restocked those, so if you hit up Facebook, I think we'll have them for probably just the end of the day.
Bearded Dragon's
Yeah.
a pretty great store.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've heard good things.
Okay, so
Yeah, so in addition to this,
Yeah.
this Magic 25 box, though, we're also going to have other things thrown into this giveaway. Now, there's a catch, though, because this giveaway requires you to not only have been in the chat this week,
what's one of the other
chatting,
things?
commenting, sharing.
It includes
Could it be-
signatures of all 4 of us.
Yes, could it be signature playmats from
I
all 4 of us?
believe-
It includes that.
It includes
Okay.
signature playmats
Free
from all of us.
free giveaways for tournaments here at the Bearded
Yeah,
Dragon.
and it also includes something to do with a future
Yeah,
tournament.
so we're not going to give away all the details, so I'll let Jake
No.
finish it off.
Yeah, so what we're doing here is you have to like the Bearded Dragon on Facebook. You have to share these posts about passing priority. You have to comment on them. And you need to watch the show. And you not only need to do that this week, but you need to come back next week. So bring
But
your
if you
friends.
do-
If you do. The thing is you might be the only person who comes back next week and shares this and likes this and comments it.
And you just
In
win
which
it
case,
for free.
you just won a Magic 25 box.
Yeah.
That-
You're
so-
the only one.
And like,
Yeah.
it's like 2 minutes of upkeep, what else has expected value of upwards of $300 for 2 minutes
a
of
nice
your time
deal.
that you're
Yeah,
going to
so-
do today after work?
So
And it's not like
share these posts. Come watch next week. Get excited about Magic.
yeah.
Play with Bloodbraid Elf. It's a sweet card.
Or
I
play
hope you
against
flip into Birds of Paradise when you play against me, and I hope you flip into Liliana, the Last Hope, when you play against everybody
Kevin
else.
Jones.
Yeah.
When you play
Yeah.
against Kevin, and only Kevin.
And then you can
So-
add him on Facebook.
So the giveaway is double value as long as you're here this week and next week. And if you weren't here this week live, that's okay. If you're watching it on a
Yeah, if
rerun,
you comment on the
totally
video on
fine.
demand or
just
whatever.
comment on the video. Be like, hey, I'm here for the giveaway. You can literally just say, I'm here for the
Yeah.
giveaway, and
Yeah.
you're entered into the giveaway.
Yeah.
Watching the
So-
show is also not
But
like
yeah,
a chore.
You
either.
should watch the show.
Sure.
Yeah, because it's
Yeah,
great.
It's like
So-
fun.
The
You can
chore
like
is
hang out with us
awesome.
and talk about Magic.
And I think that people can actually stand to learn a lot from the 2018 shows, whereas the 2017 shows were a little bit more conversationalist. I think
So.
that the 2018 shows have genuinely like a lot of content, even to the point, and I'll just say this before anybody cuts me off, even to the point where I feel bad because I don't think my takes are valuable enough because these guys all do such a great job. That's
Oh,
like,
thank you, Kevin.
so like I have like ego problems,
Thank you.
but you know.
Wait. You-
Oh, Daddy! All right. Well, anyway.
Yeah, and
I'll
I
watch
like
the
Gerard's
show.
idea,
I'll hold
by
your
the way,
hands.
about I think at some point we should definitely do
Legacy.
a legacy show, and I think that we should have a specific segment in that show about Brainstorm.
Yep.
And there, we have so many
And
good
about
things to talk
Wasteland.
about there.
'Cause
I think
you
I
can have
used
a
to be-
Wasteland conversation for hours.
I used to be
Oh,
a
yeah,
great
yeah.
legacy player, and now I think I'm a terrible legacy player.
Yeah, we can talk about it.
Yeah.
Kevin could
So-
express his feelings. So Jake, sign us off.
Watch the
Yeah.
show. Thank you.
For passing priority, this is Gerard Fabiano, Kevin Jones, Brad Bonin, and Jacob Van Lunen. And we will see you guys next week. Be well. Good night.